thank you for taking the time out for the interview. We definitely appreciate it.
No problem. It's my pleasure.
Alright, so first off, can you take me back to the group's debut album and what you remember about recording it?
I remember it being a very exciting time because, first off, it was our first major record deal, so, we were it was all very surreal initially. When we got into the studio, beforehand we had recorded a demo, and we never actually recorded an album, so this was the first time that we went in the studio to make and create an album, so it was very exciting. At the same time, it was a lot of pressure on me personally because I was the lead singer of the group, so I had to spend more time in the studio than the other girls, and we were young at the time, so I remember feeling frustrated because I wanted to, go out with them and hang out, but I had to be in the studio to make sure, the record was getting completed, but it was still an exciting time. I can definitely say it was exciting, but overwhelming.
Yeah.
In some aspects, yeah.
Yeah, and then you had a couple of singles on there. My favorite song off that album is "Message to You." So, can you kind of talk to me about that song and what you remember about recording that song?
"Message to You" is actually one of my favorite songs on the album as well. Tyrese Jones, I believe, was the producer for that song, and I remember when they initially played the song, I fell in love with it instantly, and we ended up recording it maybe like 2 days after that, and everybody loves that song. That's actually a lot of people's favorite song on the album.
With that album, what was the approach or the overall sound that you guys were trying to go for?
Okay, well, at that time, we were all the youngest member of the group. Her name is Tisha. She was, I believe, 17 at the time. I was 19 at the time, so we were fairly young. And initially, when L.A. Reid signed us to Arista Records, he wanted to definitely have us appeal to a younger audience. So we made sure we did songs that were going to appeal to that specific type of audience. Like, we had songs about the roommate. I'm sure you're familiar with that one. And, we made sure we touched on issues that girls our age would be able to relate to. So we were definitely going for a younger audience.
Okay. Okay. And, unfortunately, the album didn't make the impact that, some may have hoped for. What do you think could have been done better to, promote the album? What do you contribute that to?
I think that we could have had a better promotion team. I think that the marketing strategy could have been a little more competent. I think that we could have even had better management at the time. Our management company was good, but I think that we could have made better decisions in picking management, and just for sure, definitely a better promo team, because I think that promotion is probably the most important thing for any new artist, because it's especially hard for new artists to come out and for people to be receptive if there's not enough promotion behind them.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably what really lacked.
Okay. And then after the first album, we didn't really hear too much about you guys. Were you guys in the process of recording a second album?
Yes. Actually, surprisingly, we recorded an entire second album. And we did the album with Brian Michael Cox, who was a amazing producer. And it was supposed to be released. And around that time, Arista was doing the whole merger thing, and L.A. Reid went over to Def Jam, and the major artists that were signed to the same label that we were on, like Usher and Pink and Avril Lavigne, they went over to like Jive and J Records, and Arista folded, and most of the smaller acts were dropped from the label. So right after that, we felt like we wanted to continue to pursue being in a group together, but Ardina, who was one of our members, she had a change of heart, and she wanted to go into the politics. So because of that, that was another reason that, we kind of had to call it quits.
Oh, okay. And, I noticed your name in some of the writing credits for the debut album. What is your writing process like?
Oh, yeah. Well, I love to write music. I feel like as an artists should always be involved in like the writing aspect of the project, because it's just a part of your artistry. So, usually when I write, I listen to the track, I listen to the music first, and I'm basically moved by the music. Some people kind of make up a concept beforehand, like they'll know, like, okay, I want to talk about love, or I want to talk about this, but it's usually the music that leads me to talk about what I'm going to talk about. Like, I have to hear the music first, and the concept comes after for me. So, and sometimes, and it's so crazy because most people do it the other way, but for me, the music is what really drives me to think of a concept and, to figure out the feel of the music to know exactly what I want to write about.
Okay.
So, and that's how I did it with the songs on our album, too.
Okay, cool. And then you went on to pursue a solo career after, the group disbanded. We heard a couple of the songs on the internet, and then, I also read that you were working on an album at the time. But, nothing ever came out of that. What happened with that album?
Well, with that album, that's something that I kind of put together myself, and I wasn't signed to a major label or an independent company or anything. I was basically just gonna put together an album and try to get it shopped to like a label or something like that. But unfortunately, since I didn't have a label behind me or backing behind me, it was kind of impossible to actually put the record out. So that's why it never actually came out.
Oh, okay.
Which is different for now, because now I'm signed to an independent company, Fontana Universal. So I'm really, really excited to be actually recording the album now, because I know that I now have a machine behind me that'll be able to actually put the record out.
Oh, okay. And can you kind of talk to me about the transition from being in a group to going solo? I mean, you were the lead singer, but then, you don't have a group around you anymore. So, what's that transition like?
Well, I think I'm probably, when I go on tour and when I'm away performing, I think that's probably when I'm going to miss being in a group most, because when you're on tour, and I remember we did a European tour, and we did a tour in Japan, and it was so much fun because we had each other. And I was just thinking the other day, like, wow, like when I go on tour again over in Europe or wherever, it's just going to be me now. So I feel like that is definitely a transition that I'm going to have to get used to. But at the same time, on the positive end, being by yourself it's easier because you can make all your decisions creatively, and you don't have to worry about if two of the other girls are late. It's just, you only have to worry about yourself, and that part is definitely better to me. And then I can be just as creative as I want to be and make all the decisions on my own terms. So that's the good thing about being a solo artist. So I think the transition is definitely, it has its pros and cons.
Yeah. I mentioned earlier that, you went on to pursue a solo career a while ago, but then you're back again now with that dream. Why do you feel like now is the right time for you?
I feel like now is the right time because I'm much older now. I'm a seasoned artist. I know exactly what I want. And initially, when you start out in the business and you're so young, you don't really know what you want as an artist, and you really don't know what type of artist you want to be, because you're already young and you're trying to figure out who you are in the first place. So usually when you come out, when you're that young, the label and the management and the A&R and everybody else, they're basically trying to mold you and sculpt you into what they think you should be for the consumer. So I feel like now that I'm older and I've been in the business for so long, that I know exactly what I want. I know the lane that I want to go in. I know the type of music that I want to record and the sound that I want to cultivate. So I think that makes it, that much easier now for me to come out, because it's so important to know who you stand as an artist. And I know that now, so I feel like that's the best thing.
Oh, okay. And then with a lot of female groups, it seems like the public focuses more on the image of the group rather than, what they can do vocally. And, while you were part of the group, I noticed that, you could really, really sing. So what's the overall sound of the material that you're going to be doing now?
Okay, well, the sound of the material is, it's definitely, well, first, the name of the album is called Melodic Seduction. And the sound is, it's very sexy. It's very, it's feel-good music, and I, for sure, will have a chance to really sing my heart out on it, and you'll really get to hear me showcase my vocal ability, and at the same time, it's mood music as well. Like the music feels really nice, and and it's very sexy, and it's amazing. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, and who have you worked on? Who have you worked with? On that album so far.
On this album so far, I've worked with Kwame, who is a great producer. He's done some stuff on Fantasia and Faith Evans, and I worked with Kendrick Dean, who's done a lot of things on Mariah and Beyonce, and Tony Dixon. I'm going in with this week. He's a partner with Babyface, and he actually wrote Beyonce's first single off of her last album called Best You Never Had.
Yep.
So I'm very excited to be starting with him. I met with him yesterday, and we went over the sound and everything. And I'm also going in with Makiba Riddick, who is a huge songwriter. She wrote Rude Boy for Rihanna and Upgrade You for Beyonce. And so I'm really excited that I have so many talented people that I'm able to work with for this album.
Okay, and will you be using any of the material from that previous album that never came out?
Actually, yes. It's funny you mention that, because the album has a particular sound, and a lot of people loved two of the songs from the other album, Warmest Place and O. So I'm actually going to remix those two and add them on the album.
Okay, cool.
So I will be.
Definitely. And the group's album came out nearly a decade ago. How do you plan on reintroducing yourself to the listeners?
I think how I would do that is basically just being myself, and being an artist, I think, is about just standing for something different, and really putting yourself out there in a confident way, and making sure that your music has something refreshing and new. And on top of that, I recently wrote a book with actually one of the women that I'm going to be working with, Makiba Riddick, and the book actually coincides kind of with the album. The book is called The Mean Girl's Handbook of Etiquette, that we're shopping for a book deal right now, but it kind of coincides with the album. So I'm very serious about kind of branding myself. I think you have to do more than just be an artist. So I want to create a brand of who I am and what I stand for as an artist, and my book is definitely going to help me with that. So, just look out for both of them.
Okay, cool. And as far as singles, can we expect anything from you, in the near future?
Yes, actually, I have a mixtape that will be coming out this summer before the single drops, and the single will be dropping November of this year. The second single will be dropping January 15th of 2013, and the album will be out February 2013.
Okay, that's very cool.
Expect some material from me this summer for sure.
Okay, that's very cool. And, like I mentioned, the group's first album came out 10 years ago. Have you, noticed a lot of your fans finding you again, or, sticking by you throughout everything?
Absolutely, and you know what? That, I think, makes it reminds me of why I do what I do, because when I see that I still have fans that supported Isyss and that are still, rooting for me, that makes it that much better. And I have ran into many of my fans on Facebook and Twitter and through YouTube, and it's just it feels really good to know that people are waiting for me to put out material.
Yeah. And lastly, I just wanted to ask you, because right now in the music industry, there's not a lot of female groups. So why do you think that is?
You know what? I feel like it's really hard. It's really hard for female groups to come out and make an impact. You can count on one hand how many successful female groups we've had. Destiny's Child, of course, being the last, and probably before them, it probably was in vogue. So it's hard for female groups to really stick and to make an impact. And I think female groups usually do have a bad name because it's hard for them to really stay together. You have so many different personalities, and you have the breakup stigma. So I think that is definitely a negative problem towards female groups, and I think I don't know, it's a hard thing. I hope to see a female group soon, because I think that the music industry definitely is ready for one, and one is needed. So, I think hopefully if women can be able to get along better and stay together and actually work through like the little problems and everything, I think it would be easier for groups to stay together.
Yeah, for sure. And that's all that I had for you. Is there anything that you'd like to add?
No, I think I basically added everything. Just make sure you keep in mind that the single is dropping in November and the album is February 2013. And you can even list my Twitter for anybody that wants like updates on what I'm doing and shows and touring and everything. And the Twitter is Qui Qui Martin, QUI Martin. And yeah,